Hello and good evening. Welcome to the first episode of NDC Minority Caucus Show on Joy News TV. On behalf of the National Democratic Congress and the Communications Bureau, let me extend our thanks to the management of Joy News TV and Multimedia for the platform to reach out to Ghanaians with the NDC story and how we will better govern and develop this beautiful country of ours. This has been an important platform, and I recall when it started in 2012 with Standowe and James Ejeni on the Majority Caucus. In 2016, Ali Dawood was the host. My name is Obobiada Akompoku, and I'll be your host for the 2020 season of the NDC's Minority Caucus. As part of the NDC's Corruption Tracker series, this Monday, we tracked and dealt with the stinking PDS corruption scandal that President Akufo-Addo wants Ghanaians to forget. And tonight, I have in the studio a former Deputy Minister of Power, one who has been instrumental in Ghana's power sector and has followed the PDS scandal keenly to address the issues. We'll be right back. So once again, good evening and welcome, Honorable John Jinapor. He is our able Member of Parliament for Yape's Kusogo constituency in the Savannah region. We will later on this show discuss the happenings in his constituency. But for the purpose of our discussion tonight, if you recall, it's been a year since the PDS scam was perpetrated on the good people of Ghana by President Akufo-Addo and his government. Sitting back as former Deputy Minister of Energy and one who has keenly followed this scandal, what are your general impressions?
Well, thank you very much. Let me congratulate you. You're doing a good job. You're serving country. You're serving us. When I look back, I feel very sad. I thought that we had an opportunity, and a golden opportunity, to do what was right, what was proper, in a very transparent manner, given the embarrassment that characterized the PDS scandal, given the huge sums of money Ghana lost, and the reputational damage that this country suffered. I thought that the government of the day had a unique opportunity to send a clear signal that, at least for once, especially following the Mary scandal and other scandals, the government was committed to fighting corruption and ensuring that the right thing was done. But clearly, following from that event and looking back, it's obvious that there's been an attempt to cover up. And as if that is not enough, government is taking other steps towards handing over ECG back to yet another private sector. And I feel that we should warn government, and inform government, especially the Akufo-Addo government, that we've had enough of the corruption. You will recall that at a point in time, every week we had to deal with one corruption or the other, and it was never ending because the corruption pipeline was so packed that you couldn't have just let it go. And so we have a unique opportunity when we assume office to deal with some of these challenges and to correct the wrong.
Very well. I have seen very educated people, many people who certainly sometimes are confused about exactly what this PDS is about. So can we have a bit of a breakdown on exactly how PDS came by and what is happening as of now?
Thank you very much. Just a quick intro into this whole issue about PDS. Ghana signed Compact 1 somewhere in 2007. Indeed, it came to force in February 16, 2007, during President Kufuor's time. And then President Mills took over. And the Compact 1, which was of an amount of about 500 million, eventually elapsed in February 2012. We used that for several infrastructure projects. In fact, the United States government, through what they call the Millennium Challenge Compact, established the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And we then established MIDA, known as the Millennium Development Authority. These were the two bodies that were supposed to represent the two countries. And so you would recall that when President Mills was in power, he even had to invite President Kufuor to sit on the days with him and to cut the sword for the N1. It demonstrated that we were embracing continuity.
Exactly.
That after some years of acrimony, we needed to push our democracy and advance it to another level. And so irrespective of the fact that President Mills was the president, he thought it prudent to invite President Kufuor to also share in the glory. We had a similar one with the Bui Dam. When President Mahama was commissioning the Bui Dam, even though President Kufuor was not president, because he initiated it, and we took over and even had to raise additional funding to complete the project. President Mahama invited President Kufuor to sit on the days with him at Bui to commission that project. That was a very beautiful spectacle. And a lot of people thought that if we continued in that spirit, it would send a signal at least to the rank and file of the political divide. And so, having successfully completed Compact 1, the Americans were very, very impressed. And so, they then decided that they will give another $498 million to the people of Ghana. That was a grant. A grant simply means that it's money that is given to you and you do not pay back. Our decision at that time was that the energy sector was a major, major challenge. And so let's invest all these monies in the energy sector. Before then, we have taken a decision to deal with three main bottlenecks in the energy sector. Deal with generation, deal with fuel, and then more importantly, deal with the financing. But when you deal with all this and you don't tackle the aspect of financing, it's also an issue. And so we came out with the energy sector levies, which President Akufo-Addo inherited. Indeed, he is supposed to get about 12 billion from the energy sector levies. I recall that they kicked against it. They promised that they would scrap it. But after assuming office, not only have they maintained it, they've increased the levies. And the record is in Parliament to show. Now, the decision is that having brought in those plants like Ameri, Car Power, in order to solve the generation deficit, and having established the Ghana Gas Company, the Ghana Gas Infrastructure is about a $1 billion project, which saves this country $300 million every year from light crude oil substitution in terms of importation. We used to import 12 parcels of light crude oil. Today, we import a maximum of just one. What the gas infrastructure does is that it gives you supply reliability. It saves your foreign currency. And more importantly, it saves you money. Because monies that you would have used to go and purchase crude oil, you do not need those same monies to purchase gas. And so even when you discount for gas, the savings is about $300 million per annum. Fast forward, we decided that we should engage FTI. And the FTI is a branch of the World Bank, and they are into infrastructure projects. FTI has a very credible track record. They should help us so that we get the best company to have a concession with ECG. We have two options, either to do a concession or to sell it outright. President Mahama insisted that we should not sell it. We should rather opt for that of a concession so that the asset still belongs to the people of Ghana, but then you help us to manage it, invest money, and then we can then improve the system. So I recall that President Mahama and Honorable Tepe on September, let me just get you the exact date. I think in August 2014, under the able leadership of President Mahama, Honorable Tepe and then Secretary of State, John Kerry, signed the second compact. It came to Parliament, we gave approval and went through all the process, and decided that we will select a company that will manage ECG. ECG's total worth is about 22 billion. Their customer base is about 3.8 million. Their employee staff is about 6,230 thereabouts. And so it's a huge company. And so when you want to hand such a company to a private sector participant, you must look for the best with the track record, with the experience, with the technical know-how, and with the financial muscle in order to manage the assets. And so we started with what you call the RFQ. RFQ means that anybody who is interested comes for qualification. We pre-qualify them and got the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 companies. And then read the RFP, which is request for proposal. Having pre-qualified all of you, now bring your proposals and let's assess it. We're in that process when we lost power.
So all those things were done before you lost power?
Precisely.
Okay.
We had gone through the
Let's get into when the NPP took over power and where that started from. Did they continue the process?
No, now the NPP took power. And the first thing they did, and I want everybody to pay attention to this, the first thing they did was to get the board chairman out.
The board chairman of?
Professor Savadebe.
Of?
Of MIDA. When we took over, as NDC, we maintain the board chairman and we maintain Esson Benjamin.
Both of them had worked with President Kufuor.
They had been appointed by President Kufuor. And we said that, look, you had gone through the mill. We would not touch you. Stay and complete the process. So we did not move Esson Benjamin. We left him there to work, and we gave him every maximum cooperation. When the MPP took over, the first thing was to get Professor Seferdede out. The next thing was to get the chief executive himself out. Because as for ministers, we had to leave. So at least if you wanted some institutional memory, these two guys who are technocrats would have stayed. They booted them out. And then under the guise of a so-called restructuring, they changed all the conditions and the terms for qualification.
Yes. But is that allowed? Is that possible?
We are sovereign
since the contract had been signed.
We had signed a compact, but we hadn't executed the private sector participation contract.
Very well.
So we couldn't change the parent contract itself, which is the compact. But at least getting the contractors, we could amend it.
Very well.
Once they amended it, the tier 1 companies pulled out. The tier 2 companies pulled out.
Wow.
And we're left with tier 3 companies. So we're left with BXC and Miracle. And for very strange reasons, they disqualified BXC. It's in court. BXC is in court challenging that matter. So we're left with only Miracle. So we started raising alarm bells. Now look, where you are heading for trouble. Let us pause, let us consult, and let's do what is proper. Eventually, they brought the agreement to Parliament in July. And I have the records in July. Out of about 46 condition precedent. Condition precedent means that you must meet those conditions before you even go ahead. 16 of them had not been met. And key amongst them was condition precedent 36. Condition precedent 36 states that before ECG hands the assets, ECG must sign an agreement with the concessionaire so that ECG can continue to monitor its assets. That was not done. And I raised it on the floor of Parliament. Then worst of all, when I looked at the companies, all the Ghanaian companies, none of them had a track record.
They were all new companies.
So most of them new companies.
But did they need companies that had track record?
You needed that. If today you have your car, you want to hand it over to a driver, would you go and take a wayside driver? You will get the best experienced driver with a track record. And that was a key requirement. Then as if that was not enough, all the companies then went and constituted themselves into what you call a special purpose vehicle. An SPV is an entity that you set in order to shield yourself so that if there is any problem, no one can come after your parent company. It is done in the financial sector in order to ensure that you don't incur any liability. And so we insisted that the right thing should be done. That was not done. It was railroaded through. If you go and read the Hansard, I raised a lot of issues about the companies and about even the people managing the companies, their financial record. We even asked for their financial records so that we can investigate and be sure that they are financially sound. Because they needed $350 million to put in an account. The majority bulldozed their way through. So I took to the media. I wrote 2 open letters to the president, cautioning the president that, look, the deal was a bad one. I wrote a direct letter to the president, cautioning the president that the deal was a bad one. True to it, the MPP government just went around, looked for their cronies, their associates, their own partners, and just constituted them together and formed what they call a consortium. No advertisement, no prior investigation, no appraisal, nothing. They just picked them and put them together. And
so clearly they did not have technical or financial capacity to do the job. Certainly. I wanted you to tell us about how they were able to take the 51% of the shares.
So under the guise of a so-called giving 51% to Ghanaians, they just apportioned them. Santa Baron, TVS, they just gave it to them like that. How did you give it to them? How much did they even contribute? Nothing. From their financial statement, nothing was contributed to constitute in terms of their cash calls or their initial equity. So clearly, somebody was on a path, somebody had conspired, planned a carefully executed agenda in order to ensure that for the next 20 years, they will have a foothold in ECG and continue to milk the people of Ghana.
Okay, I wanted us to talk about the identities of the Ghanaian shareholders. Yesterday, as the Communications Bureau had its press conference, I heard Sami, as he talked about Baba, who owns a barbering salon, who had shares. And tell me about the other Ghanaian shareholders. Well,
for the sake of professionalism, normally I won't even deal with the companies themselves.
Sure.
Yes, and key amongst them was the Philip Ayensu guy. He was supposed to be the board chairman, and there was an attempt along the line to remove him and put Mr. Kenoforiata's favorite, and that is where the problem started. When Kenoforiata wrote a letter seeking to dilute the shares, he wrote a letter appointing Honorable Lawyer Akoto to restructure the deal after Parliament had approved.
Is that legal?
That is illegal. That is an affront to what Parliament approved. Parliament approved a concession with shareholders. Then just after Parliament approves, you clandestinely and surreptitiously write a letter appointing somebody as finance minister that they should restructure it. If you go and read the compact, the only two people who are supposed to communicate directly is the vice chair of the Millennium Challenge Corporation and the chairman of MIDA.
So clearly he was out of order.
The finance minister had no business doing that. He had no business trying to take the shares. The first question is, who was he going to give those shares to? Why was he interested in diluting the shares? Why was he interested in introducing a third party into the agreement? Who is that person who was coming to benefit from that agreement? These are serious issues.
And then there was some monies that were supposed to have gone to them before the contract was terminated. Tell us about that.
So, the contract was supposed to kick in terms of handing over the assets to PDS on the 1st of May. Now, somewhere in March, getting to the end of March, when they presented the guarantee, ECG raised the alarm bells. And even before the guarantee, they were supposed to present what you call a demand guarantee.
Demand guarantee.
A demand guarantee is like a letter of credit. You post the money in the account, or the bank steps in to say that, look, Madam Bobia, give me your iPad. The bank is guaranteeing for Jinapor. We'll give you that document. In the event that Jinapor fails to pay, you can go direct to the bank and take the money. Because PDS didn't have the financial muscle and the technical withdrawal, all the banks refused to do that. So there was a meeting in the vice president's office. And in this whole PDS deal, if there's anybody who has caused harm to this country, it is no less a person but Dr. Bawumia.
Why?
He behaved in an unfortunate and irresponsible manner.
Tell us about that.
At a meeting chaired by Dr. Bawumia, when it came to light that the consortium did not have the financial capacity to issue the demand guarantee, he gave express instructions that it should be watered down from a demand guarantee to an insurance guarantee. That was the highest level of treachery from a sitting vice president to a country that has given him the opportunity to serve this country. And we hold Dr. Bawumia directly responsible.
We are told that the nation lost 1.8 billion under the Power Compact. Compact 3 is $400 million, budgetary support $500 million, etc. Can you tell us about these figures and
so
exactly
quickly,
how much the people of Ghana lost in that deal?
Yes, just quickly. Now they told PDS that go and do an insurance guarantee and not a demand guarantee. Even that one, they couldn't do it. They had to use monies from ECG. They created a phony account, presented it, and then when they started operating on the 1st of May, monies that they collect from you and I, they then put it in that account as if they were paying for the guarantee. Along the line, there were a lot of disagreements with government officials and PDS staff. in terms of the minister's letter as to who must eventually control what, in quote, you call the booty. Because now they have succeeded in killing the elephant. It has been handed over. How do you apportion it? That is what led to all these challenges.
So there was no due diligence done?
There was no due diligence done. There was complexity. There was corruption. And there was clearly an orchestrated attempt by some elements in this government who had hatched a plan to take assets belonging to ECG and to benefit from it in an unfair manner. That is what happened. Now you talk about the monies.
Yeah.
Eventually, the minister himself, Peter Mewu, wrote a letter that the state has been defrauded.
By
PDS. He wrote that letter and said that there was an element of fraud. So we said, if there's an element of fraud, somebody must be held responsible.
Of course.
So who are those whose negligence led us to this embarrassing proportion of monumental levels, this international embarrassment that has lowered the image of Ghana? Who are those responsible? And why are we not holding those responsible to account? Up to now, nobody has been held liable. But the monies, ECG, based on their 2019 outturns, and I'm talking of outturns, they've collected an amount of 6.2 billion cedis. I have the figure here. They've collected an amount of 6.2 billion cedis. PDS operated for the month of about 5 months. When you discount the 5 months that they've operated and check when it was terminated, it means that they've collected about 2 billion cedis.
Ghana cedis.
2 billion Ghana cedis. Where are those monies? The people of Ghana must demand answers as to where the 2 billion cedis went to. How was the 2 billion cedis disbursed? How much money was left with PDS at the time of terminating the contract? And why have the people of Ghana not received their monies back? The 2 billion cedis PDS collected is more than the cost of subsidizing electricity for the people of Ghana for the 3-month period during COVID.
In all of this, what will have the Mahama administration done differently about this particular issue?
Well, as a result of this embarrassment and this scandal, we have already lost $190 million. The Americans have withheld it. I was in the meeting with the Americans. Compact 3, they've indicated that it won't come on. Because they don't even trust us any longer. They can't trust the people who are at the helm of affairs. A Mahama administration, one, would have allowed transparency and due diligence to continue. We also have friends. Don't we have brothers? Don't we have friends? Don't we have partners? If we were that corrupt and that insensitive and that wicked, we would have also handed that to our partners. Why didn't we do that? Why is it that the NDC decides that they will do a transparent process, ensure that there's accountability, but when the NPP assumes office, their prior occupation and principal occupation is to apportion state resources and hand it over to their cronies? That is the difference between the NPP and the NDC. And I think that the people of Ghana must come clear on this.
I have been wondering exactly what the NDC would have done differently from what the NPP has done, because up until now, a year after their contract was terminated, these shareholders are still walking on the streets of Ghana without any prosecution, nothing going on. So I'm just wondering that what will the NDC do if it takes over power in December 2020?
First of all, I am convinced that the NDC is on its way to power. Our record speaks for itself. We've experienced almost 4 years of abysmal performance, 4 years of corruption, 4 years of grabbing, 4 years of family and friends, and 4 years of wasted time. Indeed, the clock of progress of this country has been turned backward ever since President Akufo-Addo assumed office. And so it's a moral duty. In fact, it's a national duty that every patriotic Ghanaian must join the rescue team and kick these people out of government. at least it will send a signal to politicians that when you are granted power, when the people vote you into power, you are here in power to serve them and not to appropriate state resources. And so when we assume office, let me assure the people of Ghana that under a Mahama presidency, we shall thoroughly investigate this PDS scandal and ensure, first of all, that monies that have been misappropriated, monies that have been applied, any laws that has accrued due to this negligence and fraudulent deal as described by the minister himself, we shall retrieve those monies and reinvest them as far as development is concerned.
Will you still be looking for investors to give them that concession? Will you continue with that process that you left before the NPP took over?
President Mahama has indicated that we should try as much as possible and get Ghanaians at the commanding heights of this economy. And so even if you want to involve the private sector, I think that it must be done in a transparent manner. In any country, no country grows with only the public sector. At some point in time, you need to bring in the private sector. We did that with the telecom sector. It's been fantastic. We did that with the banking sector. It's been fantastic. Even the energy sector, we need to involve the private sector. The catchword is that do it in a transparent manner. There should be value for money. The people of Ghana must benefit from whatever decision you take. You don't go under the guise of a so-called private sector participation only to appropriate resources and hand it over to cronies.
And you think that these cronies should be prosecuted?
I think that the first line of action should be government officials, not just the cronies. Somebody brought them in. Who signed off this deal? Who allowed the watering of the demand guarantee to an insurance guarantee? Who knew all this while that the guarantee was fake, and yet midnight to the concession wrote letters? 2 days they were writing letters midnight that the concession should be handed over. When ECG through A.T. Kenny wrote to the minister and told the minister that they suspected that the guarantee was not properly executed, the Minister of Finance, Kenneth Oretta, despite all the caution, still pressed on, went ahead, and got our valuable assets handed over to PDS. This PDS scandal is the biggest fraud that has happened to Ghana after the Ameri scandal. And surprisingly, the two biggest scandals that's happened under this government happened within the energy sector. The Ameri scandal, where almost $800 million was going to be taken off over a period of time, and the PDS scandal. These two scandals are scandals of monumental proportion.
So after the government officials are prosecuted, if your government comes into power, what happens to the shareholders? Do they have some questions to answer?
First of all, let me assure you that the government officials will not be prosecuted under President Akufo-Addo. He will clear them. That has been the duty and the preoccupation of the president. Anytime there's a scandal, he creates a storm, brainwash it, and tries to storm it through, and eventually leave it there. I can assure you, nobody will be prosecuted. The shareholders, if they are found culpable, the first thing is they want our money. As for that one, it's non-negotiable. The people of Ghana want full accountability. Monies that have been misappropriated must be brought back. And if anybody is found culpable, that person will be taken to due process, and I mean due process, so that the person would face justice in a competent court of law.
Anyway, I want to take a detour from PDS a bit. I want to talk about Dumso. Very often you hear the MPP say that Dumso did not end before they took over. You were in that ministry. You can tell us exactly what transpired in that ministry and tell us whether Dumso ended before the NPP took over the reins of government in 2017.
Well, I think that the NPP might have succeeded in lying their way into power, but let me assure you that they will not succeed in retaining power through lies. Deception cannot be the order of the day. At least we have seen them in government. Because as far back as March 2016, right in these studios, and I'm happy I'm in right in these studios, Dr. Baumia confessed and confirmed that Dumso had ended under President Mahama, but insisted that even though President Mahama has ended Dumso, he would not grant credit to him, and that President Mahama should have ended it long way. So the issue of who ended Dumso is no more in contention. And we stated January 2016 that we have enough capacity and that the load shedding timetable had ceased. Since then, we never published any load shedding timetable. Recently, the cousin or is it nephew of the president, Mr. Gabi Asaro-Chidako, sat behind a computer, concocted a fake load shedding timetable, embossed 2016 on it, and put it on his Twitter account that indeed there was a load shedding timetable in 2016. I responded and challenged him to provide the source of that information. As we speak, he hasn't been able to do that. And so there's no doubt in my mind, and there's no doubt the record speaks for itself, that His Excellency President Mahama, through dint of hard work, commitment, through his vision and his investment, successfully and comprehensively ended Dumso 12 clear months before handing over to President Akufo-Addo.
So tell me
in any case, I have just one question. We said we ended Dumso in January 2016. The MPP says they ended Dumso. When did they end Dumso? There should be timelines. If you ask them, they can't tell you. When you ask them, what did you do to end Dumso? We added all the megawatts we are talking about. We expanded electricity from 54 to 84% by the time we're leaving. 4 years of NPP, they've expanded electricity by 1.5%. That is the track record of the MPP. And they have a certain belief that, look, you can just tell and peddle falsehood and continue on that trajectory. The people of Ghana will believe you. And so, my sister, take it from me. If you check from Energy Commission, you check from Gridco, we successfully ended Dumso and handed over assets, like gas infrastructure, a very robust energy sector, and even money. And it's captured in the budget. When we're leaving office, we handed money in the energy sector levy accounts to Mr. Kenoforeta. He confirms that in his own report. And so what are they talking about?
And that conversation continues. Every now and then you hear that conversation about how the NDC did not end Dumso, but they did. So is it that you are not telling your story?
We have tried as much as we can. And I'm happy that we have this platform, at least to engage. On the floor of Parliament, when you ask them, they cannot answer. I recall that Payos Hajide was on one of the programs. They asked him, if you claim the NDC did not end Dumso, but you ended it, when did you end it? He couldn't answer it. A deputy minister of information, he couldn't. I have told you the timelines. When President Mahama went to Parliament to give the State of the Nation address, he reinforced it and stated that I, President Mahama, last year I stated here that I will comprehensively end Dumso and that I have ended it. So that is a fact.
Very well. I'm sure that we'll take a short break. This is the first edition of Minority Caucus here. We're heading towards December 7th, and I'm sure that election is coming up. We in the NDC are looking forward to telling the people of Ghana exactly what we do for them when we take their reins of power. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we talk about the petroleum resources, how people have benefited from it, the state Ghana has benefited from it. Then we'll talk about the NDC's plan for the energy sector when voted into power. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Honorable John Jinapor is our able member of Parliament for the Ape-Kusagu constituency in the Savannah region. We have been talking about PDS. We spoke a bit about Dumso also. Now I want to talk about the fact that is Ghana benefiting from petroleum resources, because we've heard all kinds of stories. I just want you to educate us on petroleum resources and how it has been beneficial to the people of Ghana.
Thank you very much. You will recall that we discovered oil in commercial quantities. And since then, we have been working very hard to ensure that indeed the state benefits from the oil. As far back as 1896, we started exploring for oil. So it's been quite a while. And then in the 1980s, under PNDC Law 64, President Rawlings established the GNPC, specifically in 1983. And so we've been going through the process, and now Ghana can be described as an oil-rich country. Normally, what you do is that in the oil sector, you take policies, measures, and laws to ensure that the state benefits. And so I recall that when we assumed office, President Mahama was tasked to ensure that we put in place the necessary framework. That culminated in the establishment and the passing of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, one of the best laws in this country. Then we established the Petroleum Commission to regulate the upstream sector. Because in the petroleum sector, you have upstream, midstream, and downstream. Sometimes the midstream is cluttered, but generally you have upstream and midstream. And then we passed the Petroleum Exploration Act to regulate how we even drill or look for, explore for petroleum. So we put in place all the necessary measures. But consistently, we took a decision that we would want to increase our stake in the oil resource itself so that we can make maximum benefit. So if you look at the initial agreements like Jubilee, we had just about 13. Then if you look at 10, we raised it. Then if you look at Sankofa, we raised it higher to about 20. So consistently, we're increasing our stake. Then the AGM agreement and that, we raised it to about 40%. When this government assumed office, the first thing they did was that they wanted to review the petroleum agreements. And so the AGM agreement, they reviewed downwards our stake, which was about 40%, to 18%.
And the reason was?
They claimed that they were trying to make it attractive for the private sector.
And it wasn't earlier.
And even as they were doing that, somewhere in June, just within 1 month, to them bringing the agreement to Parliament, the renegotiated agreement, the agreement that we negotiated and increased Ghana's stake, they were forming another private company called Quad Energy. And they've given Quad Energy 5% of the whole block for no amount paid. Carried. How? Carried. When we say carried, it means that you don't pay a dime throughout the search for oil. When you are participating or you have a commercial interest, anytime there's a cash call, you are called on to come and pay. A private company that was formed about 1 month to their coming to Parliament.
With no track record?
No. This is an existing contract. It's not a new contract. It's an existing agreement where the nation Ghana has about 40% stake. Yeah. You reduce it to 18, and then you take 5% and give it to a private company for free. For free, no, nothing paid. So for God knows how many years that they are going to drill oil, somebody is just going to sit comfortably and just enjoy the proceeds and enjoy the sweats of our grandfathers.
What did the minority in Parliament do about that?
We walked out of that agreement. Even in Parliament, the records, even the majority side, they instructed the minister that go and increase our stake, at least the commercial stake, from 3% to 10%. They gave the minister 6 months. It's more than a year now. He hasn't done that. Only to come back again in December that we should grant the companies more concessions. Grant them tax waiver, grant them concessions. They won't pay tax. Even the technology for drilling oil. Ghana cannot determine that as for this technology, we don't want it. It is those companies that will determine what they want to do. As if that was not enough, the minister has signed an agreement with them that if they want documents or approvals, like environmental permit and all those things, and they're having challenges, they can write to the minister to go and look for it for them.
Why do they deserve that pampering? Because
somebody's 5% is more important to him than what the Republic of Ghana will benefit. You know something, the people of Ghana, this is not even about NDC and MPP. It's about the Republic of Ghana and how some people have constituted themselves into a cabal and looting state resources. Complete loot. This is complete loot.
Are they
and they are not just
people?
looting.
They are people that we can identify.
We know them around. But let me assure them, you have just 4 months. 4 months. When we assume office, not if, when we assume office, we shall ensure that all this wrong is corrected. All this wrong, we shall ensure that it is corrected. Look, if you sit in parliament and you see the way and manner with which people with confidence try to loot the state, you'll be very, very worried.
And your hands are tied?
We will do everything we can as a minority. And you've seen the clips, you've seen the video, there's documentary evidence. When we rise up and make compelling arguments, the majority would not budge. And eventually we see the embarrassment, all the issues we've raised that the majority did not agree. Eventually they go to hit a wall, and then the people of Ghana will all see the embarrassment.
Anyway, just before we go, I'd like us to talk about the NDC's plan for the energy sector when voted into power. And you have told us, and I know very well, that on the 7th of December, Ghanaians are going to make that bold decision and put the NDC back into power. What are your plans for that
Just a quick
sector?
one before I get there. When the MPP assumed office, we had procured 2 million barrels of crude oil from the 10 fields to be given to Tor, so that Tor can process our own crude oil. They described that as off-spec and sold it off.
How?
At very ridiculous prices. Bost. We have stocked the tanks of Bost with fuel, so that when the state has a problem, you can fall on that to save the state. You remember the Movimpina scandal? They described it as off-spec and sold it off. Look at airport, what's happening to Ghana Airport today. They want to sell it off. So everything that President Mahama did to build the infrastructure base of this country, the Akufo-Addo presidency is determined within 4 years, including infrastructure that took us 8 years and more than 8 years to complete. They just want to dissipate and sell everything. What are you looking for? But you see, like you said, when the NDC assumes office, and President Mahama has made it clear that when we assume office, we must hit the ground running. And so all the necessary policy documents are being put together. All the necessary paperwork are being put together, including costing, timing, and how it is going to be done. So we have an energy for all policy. We believe that we can achieve universal access to electricity. Our target was 2020. This government has reviewed it to 2030. We believe that by 2025, we can achieve that. Because for 2020 is gone.
It's gone.
We also believe that under our lighting for all policy, if you drive around Accra today, it's so dark. We converted high pressure bulbs to LED bulbs. We must light the capital cities and most of the towns for 2 reasons: tourism and security. We believe that we must process our own crude oil in Ghana, add value to the crude that we produce. We believe that Ghanaian entrepreneurs must be given the opportunity to be at the commanding heights of the petroleum sector. That is why we passed the local content bill. We would deepen it and ensure that Ghanaians benefit. We would restore Tor to its glory, so that Tor can serve not just Ghana, but the sub-region. You can expand it and work on it and ensure that it serves the people of Ghana. But more importantly is transparency. Transparency is the catchword. Because in all that we do, if the ultimate objective is to just give it to cronies, let me give you this company. There's a company that was established in 2017, Stratcon Oil, owned by these same people. Stratcon Oil, anybody can Google Stratcon Oil. All the oil supplies, they are giving it to them. Why? No, is it that some people are more Ghanaian than others? I can understand. Maybe your government is come to power. Your people must also work. But why do you decide that you just want to select a selected few
to enrich them
and enrich them and impoverish the rest of the people of Ghana? That must not be countenanced. That must not continue. That must stop. And all of us must ensure that we exercise our franchise on the 7th of December by booting this incompetent and corrupt government out of office.
Indeed.
They have no business staying in power for even one more day. But if you keep this government in power, it means that you are mortgaging Ghana's future for the next 4 years. It means that, look, 4 years, President Akufo-Addo wouldn't even come contesting again. And so that even strengthens their hand to do worse things that they are doing today. We've had enough of destruction. We've seen enough of corruption. We cannot continue on this trajectory.
We are simply tired.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. I wanted you to take a minute to talk about your constituency. I know you have been campaigning. You just returned from the registration. And what exactly do you intend to achieve in your constituency for the next 4 years?
Well, we hit the 63,000 mark from about 54,000. And so clearly, let me thank my constituents. I'm very proud of you. I feel humbled that you've given the opportunity. And a lot of my constituents tell me that I've not let them down, and that I've served and lifted the image of the constituency. It's unfortunate that we are not in power. Even without that, we try to do a lot for the constituency. I pray that President Mahama wins the next election so that all of us can continue to support the constituency. We took electrification from 4 towns to 72 towns.
Wow. Anyway, I wish we could continue, but unfortunately we have to run out of here. Thank you very much for making time to join us this evening on Minority Caucus. Thank you very much to the Honorable John Jinapor. He's the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Yape Kusagu and former Deputy Minister of Power. We are grateful for your time. Make a date with us next Tuesday from 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. Thank you very much to the Communications Bureau of the National Democratic Congress. All we intend to do on this platform is to tell our story, how we will govern the people of Ghana and why we are a better alternative. My name is Obobiada Apopoku. Thanks for your time.